thank you everyone for coming today. It's great to see so many of you are interested in the Herschel programme. I think it's a really, really great opportunity. So thank you for coming out. If anyone is interested, there is a website with a lot more information. The QR code has been helpfully blocked by a notification, but I can share that afterwards. Alternatively, if you just Google the Herschel programme, it will come up. Shreya, if you would like to make a start.
Yeah, as Lucy said, welcome everyone. Thank you for making the time to come here. So the Herschel programme, this is run by Talent, and this is for anyone who identifies as a woman. And this was done so that women in technical roles can develop leadership skills. So you can see some of these women here, and moving on to what is the Herschel programme and a bit of a background. So Herschel programme comes from Caroline Herschel, who is this pioneer German physicist. She actually was an astronomer with her brother, George Herschel, and to honour her and her work, the Herschel programme was named after her. And from the Sanger Institute, we actually have sent a few members. So we have from 2023 participants here, and we also have 3 participants from that cohort sitting there in the panel, and some participants will be presenting in a bit. But also from the 2022 cohort, we have Emma, Shelley, and Sarah, who is not here at the moment. And now I'll pass it over to Lizzie.
Great. So just to run through a little bit of information on what the programme is and how it runs. The current year's programme hasn't yet been released, but we imagine it's pretty much the same as last year. So it's about 6 months long. We have a launch event, various modules covering you as a leader, context and culture, influencing and negotiating, and confidence and empowerment. So you've got a workshop on all of these, and then they split into what's known as action learning sets. These are basically small groups with other participants. Generally, these get mixed up, so you get to work with people from different institutes. So you don't just stick with people you already know. It's a great networking opportunity and a way to learn from your peers. And then these get carried through the whole way, and then you have a celebration event at the end. And as I'm not someone that's actually attended, I'm going to hand over to the experts that have been there. So Yusha is going to give us a little bit of the talk.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'll try to go through some detail, but not too much to not kind of give it all away, but kind of go through like my personal experience on this program. So the first thing I'll show you is that, so there's 4 main modules, and based on these modules, you'll be assigned into the cohort groups, and you'll kind of go into these modules, not in order, but they're kind of all interlinked. So there's context and culture, you as a leader, influencing and negotiating, and confidence and empowerment. So kind of I think the main one that I enjoyed the most was probably you as a leader. And it kind of, you're able to reflect whether you have actual characteristics of a leader. Because sometimes people can go to certain leadership programs, training, and actually realize that leadership isn't a role for them, and that's absolutely fine. And it gives you some insight on you as a leader, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what things you can potentially work on. And context and culture was quite interesting. There was a lot of interesting discussion. People were bringing a lot of experience that they have. Yet again, so it's for aspiring leaders of people or women who are already in leadership positions. So they come with a lot of experience that they were able to share. So that was very interesting. Influencing and negotiating, again, kind of looking at you know, like psychological behaviors of people, and then how you can actually utilize that when it comes to negotiating and influencing. And again, confidence and empowerment. I think in this module we spoke with, I think, was it Helen? Was she at right at the beginning? Helen Sharman. She was the highlight of my whole experience in Herschel. She's the first British female astronaut, and just her story in general is very inspiring. She used to work as a chemist in ironically Mars, like Mars the chocolate, and then she ended up being the first British scientist to go to space. And then kind of going through like the pros and cons. Again, I'll try and get as open as possible. So again, like the pros, career development, excellent, especially if you're, and I wouldn't say it's definitely for somebody who wants to be a leader, but somebody who wants to take that step forward in their career, whether you're an RA wanting to apply to an ARA role, whether you're an ARA wanting to apply to a, I don't know, special technical specialist role. I think it's very good for you to, again, take that time out to reflect on your career and your aspirations as well. And then you get to meet different people from different universities, different institutions, and again, seeing their career development. And there's so many people at different stages of their life as well. So very insightful there. Again, giving you that confidence, empowerment, you know, seeing people and hearing their stories and seeing where they come from. Again, helps a lot. Networking, of course, you know, anyone would love a bit of networking. You know, you meet people, you have them on LinkedIn, you can actually track their journeys and see, well, you know, what they're doing next or any of their accomplishments. So again, you do make friends, especially in our ALS group. We kind of keep in contact every now and again. And again, experienced speakers. I think Helen was my star. She was amazing. There are people who have worked and actively worked in different areas in leadership, for example, culture and context, people that are involved in like policy making and things like that. So again, it gives you that exposure to different people. I think the cons, so these are personal to me, so everybody will have like different pros and cons. As a time restraints, right? So at that time when Herschel started, I started as a secondment. So I was in one lab 3 days a week and another lab 2 days a week. So I was like all over the place. And then, so it does require, you know, you do have to kind of give it its time and energy and kind of invest. So that was like personal to me. And then of course, like anything online, like being online for like 2 hours, 3 hours, there is a bit of like, you know, fatigue. And then like going like from there, go back into the lab. And we've given a lot of feedback back to the organizing committee. So for example, so our ALS groups were different to our cohort groups. So we would attend all these modules in cohort groups, but then our ALS groups where we work on the poster, it was different. So again, everyone has the different timetable. I think that was probably the most kind of biggest step back in the whole. I think you might agree. Again, you know, sometimes it came down to me. I was the one sending the invites, creating the groups, chasing up people. So again, like it depends on how much you want to invest in this. And we did manage to get a poster in the end because, you know, everyone's busy, but you know, some people didn't end up like making a poster because it was just impossible to liaise with people in terms of schedule. Again, that links into the last one. So the cohorts were different to the ALS groups. So again, yeah, that's the picture from 2023 and then 2022. But yeah, no, overall, I would definitely, you know, encourage everyone, no matter what stage you are in your career, to go in the Herschel program because it will give you that exposure. And I can't say that I didn't learn anything from it. You know, I'd be lying if I did that. But definitely. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for that insight. It was really interesting to hear your experience. Next, we will move on to our next speaker.
Hi, I'm Zoe. So I was on the Herschel programme this last year. So mine's a bit more, less overview about the course itself, but more what my experience was and what I took from it. So why did I apply? This is just a really brief overview of what my current career looks like. The role I think which influenced my decision to join most was when I became a lab shift manager. I was fortunate to be working at the company that was then selected to be the first COVID lighthouse lab. But that actually meant that I didn't have much experience myself. I then found myself managing other people with vastly more experience than myself, people that had much higher level qualifications than myself. And that was because obviously everyone else's labs had been shut down, so they were just coming to help. It wasn't their proper job. And it wasn't from anything that anyone else said or did, but I found myself starting to feel like the real imposter syndrome. I didn't have the experience to be in this position. And although I went on into other roles, for a little while I thought I actually just really disliked management. And that's when I joined Sanger as an ARA, and then found actually in a different environment, I did quite enjoy management, and I think it is where my strengths lie. But I think I carried forward with me this kind of subconscious imposter syndrome. So that's what I wanted to, that's why I wanted to apply for the Herschel program, to try and gain back that confidence, and yeah, learn a little bit more and develop my leadership skills. So what did I gain? So the tools and the modules that you learn are really good, and you have them forever. Then you can go back and refer to them. But the three main things that I think I took away from it were actually slightly separate to that. I think I've been chasing this, once you attend this course or do this training program, or there'll be some sort of special formula, like you do X, Y, and Z, then suddenly you'll be confident in your role. I remember doing the confidence module, and that's the one I was looking forward to the most. And we kind of got to the end of the module, and I kind of felt a bit like, oh, but you've still not really told me, how do I become confident? And it gave me like a fresh outlook that it's something that no one else can do for me or can teach you how to do it. You can be given the tools, and then you've got to work on it yourself. And I think getting that fresh outlook has actually really helped me in terms of my next steps and how I start to feel more confident in that role. In the ALS group, I think I was one of the ones with more management experience than others, and helping each other with problems that you've got in those kind of really safe spaces where you can talk freely and without any judgment. I was actually able to offer advice to other people who didn't have as much management experience, and it kind of made me reflect and realize that I do have value to offer, and some people actually acted on some of the advice that I gave and said it was really helpful to them. So it kind of made me reflect on all the things that I have learned about being a manager, and that some of those things are actually good lessons to have learned. So that kind of helps my own confidence a bit. And then learning how important it is to set aside time for your own development. So yeah, the modules are like 3 hours long. Sometimes that'll coincide in the same week with an ALS group meeting that is also 3 hours. So it feels like quite a lot. And as with everyone's always really busy, and it always feels like I could really do without this today. But you rush around in the morning to get yourself ready so that you can set aside the time in the afternoon. And I found once I actually started that training, it was like a kind of like a calming, right, the most important thing for me in the next 3 hours is to think about myself and work on how I feel in my role and how I can develop. So I actually think that's something I need to carry forward in setting aside time in my own calendar and appreciating that it is important to have that time to think about yourself. Advice to people applying this year: don't leave the application to last minute. I knew that you needed endorsement from your manager, but I didn't realise they actually need to do like a written paragraph for you. So I had to go to my manager on the day of the deadline and ask them to put that together. The rest of it you can do quite quickly, so maybe just ask your manager for that ahead of time. I'd say everyone's experience of the course is different. So on the Wellcome event, we had some people from the previous year come and share a little bit of their experience. What I learned from the course is that I actually quite enjoy my job currently, and I'm not looking to move or go elsewhere. Some people I think have found it really life-changing and have then changed careers or changed jobs because of this program, which is great. That wasn't my experience. I found it really useful. So I'd say try and go in, yeah, with a clear head as to don't have any preconceptions as to what you want to get out of the course. It'll be different for everyone. And then I know it's already quite a lot of time to commit, but you're going to get more out of it if you then also set aside time for yourself after the courses and after the modules to kind of go through and digest what you've learned and then refer back to it. And that's something that I've not yet had a chance to do, but I think I would have benefited from that if I'd done that along the way. And then I found it really useful when trying to do our own posters to see in this meeting last year what other people's looked like, just to give you a flavour. It feels like quite a lot of work and you're not given a lot of guidance as to what your poster should be like, but everyone's is completely different. You can't really get it wrong. So some people have obviously put in a lot of effort. Some people, theirs is slightly more basic, ours was somewhere in the middle, because it depends on how much time people can commit to it, but don't worry too much about it. You can't really get it wrong. There's been some formatting changes there, but yeah, I just found that useful to see last year's when we were making ours. Yeah, sorry, I've carried on past my slide break there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great information there. Thank you for sharing. As you can see at the moment, we do have a QR code up. This is because the deadlines and timelines and all of the information for this year's cohort has not yet been released. If you sign up to this mailing list, you will get the emails when the information comes out. Having spoken to the organisers, this is the best way to go about it. So do sign up if you're interested. I will leave this up for the rest of this session because we're now going to move on to the Q&A section. Obviously, Yusra and Zoe, you've already introduced yourself, but Sharon, if you'd just like to say who you are.
Okay, yeah, my name is Sharon. I'm with ARA, the editing teams and the operations, and I was in the 2023 cohort. Go first. So the reason I joined the program was that I found that I don't know if it's something that's only in science and academia or if it's everywhere really. You do science well, you get your qualifications, and you're just amazing in the lab, or you're a great scientist. You get promoted to be a manager, and suddenly you're leading people. And this is not something you were doing before. And I feel like a lot of people are struggling in that area. And I want to progress to a role where I can lead eventually. And I don't want to get there and not be equipped for leadership. So this is a leadership course. So that's why I signed up. I'm not a leader yet, but it's something that I'm looking for. And I can definitely say that if you want to join, you don't have to be a leader. You just have to be someone who's looking to get some leadership skills. And so I would say it's for anyone who's looking for career progression and people who are leaders, because I think they really do equip you. You can't exactly say you already know it all. There's a lot of new information that I personally got from them. I would say any woman technician, really, it's not all leadership. There was a lot that I got from there that had nothing to do with leadership. For example, the negotiating module taught us things like knowing people before you speak to them, know their characters, know their strengths, and when you go in there, you are sort of empowered. You kind of know who you're talking to and how to address them. That's going to work for them, because most people respond differently to a negotiation. And also on top of that, we got like ways in which to negotiate, be it for a salary increase, be it for changes within your organization. They gave us tips on how to negotiate. That's not something you necessarily need for leadership, but that's something you can use. So I'd say anyone who identifies as a woman in a technical position who's looking for career progression, go for it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think there's some aspects that might be more applicable if you're currently in a leadership role or managerial role, but if that's the direction you're looking to head in, I think it's really useful now. And yeah, a lot of the course for this last year, at least, a lot of people weren't currently managing or directly leading anyone. So don't let that put you off. I think a lot of the course is still, the content is still useful.
Really interesting to say that, because in my area group, everybody was
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Completely different. Again, just to echo what was already said, I think, like you mentioned, going with like an open mind and see if leadership is even something for you or not. And like I mentioned, it's okay if leadership isn't for you. And if you think that leadership is for you, you're already a leader, then yeah, there are definitely new skills, knowledge and information that you can get. And then it's also time to reflect on whether you have these certain skills.
Yeah, I was wondering your experience, Yusra, because we heard how long you're all wet lab, right? You are, but I want to mention that we had also some computational stuff as well, so it's open to everyone actually. So you mentioned your experience in terms of to have a perspective for everyone.
So I'm an ARA, so I have had leadership positions before. Again, during university, I was head of Wellcome society. So I won't say it's that much experience, but then just seeing like having insights on leadership in science, it's different, or in STEM, it's very different to kind of leadership in other places. And I think the module for culture and context gives you a lot of insight on leadership specifically in science. And again, in the course in general, there are people from not just science, but also other areas as well, like maths. There was a department of physics in my ILS group. So yeah, very, very diverse.
Yeah, I think we had someone that I met, geology based, someone also like fashion and like material production based as well. So the majority was scientific, but there were people outside of that. I'd say I haven't had recognition. So I was in a slightly unusual position that when I started the course, I was already transitioning into a new role. And a lot of people, I think the outcome of this course is then that they want to go for a promotion. I think I kind of did it in a reverse way around. My manager was really supportive about me going on it and kind of asked how it was going along the way. I'd say I haven't put in the effort into applying all the skills that I've learned into my current role yet. So I've not got any recognition back from it as such, but I think that's also to do with my effort and how much I've put in. I don't think it might be more that there's certain things that you just start applying into your day-to-day role. No one would necessarily know that it's something I've learned from the Herschel program. It might just be something good that's implemented, or a slight improvement in how I am within my role, but as opposed to recognition as such. I don't know if that kind of answered that question a little bit.
Yeah. I think I think that it's something you do for yourself. And I wasn't really I wouldn't say I was waiting for recognition, but maybe I'll mention it in like my appraisal soon, and it can show that I'm doing something to kind of progress my career forward, to kind of like help me get the soft skills for the next role that I want to apply for. But yeah, I think I hope that answers.
Yeah, so what I want to exactly what you said. It's not about getting the recognition. One of the things I think you come up with is to look around and see where you can make changes, where you can fit in. It's more a self-development course where you're now going to give more back to the team after the course rather than recognition. I mean, definitely you put it in your CV and you list it as it's a great achievement. So you definitely put it down there, but it's more how you look at what you're doing. Yeah.
I think I've been spoken to Emma from Sanger. She was in the first year. I remember her saying I think her manager could really tell a difference in her, and she found the course really useful. So I don't know the exact details, but I think her manager definitely saw an improvement in her attitude towards work. So like I said, it's kind of different for everyone. So that's almost a slightly different example to what we've just said. Her manager did see an improvement in her and recognise that.
Yeah, because another person who from this program then decided to apply for a role that she didn't really have much experience in, and she got the role, and it was her dream role, and she was really interested in it, and she was looking forward to it. So yeah, she was really. I think the program definitely helped her and given her the confidence.
Yeah, that's not a nice event. I think at the celebration event, there was an opportunity for some people to stand up and say what they'd gained, and there were a lot of people that, like I said, maybe like slightly changed career paths or had been promoted or had gone for a new job at a new workplace, and they think this course had helped them make that next step. So it's 4 modules. Each of those are 3 hours long. Some of the modules, they do ask you to do a little bit of prep work. It's not a lot. And I think they always appreciated everyone has full-time jobs. Well, most people have full-time jobs. So if you didn't ever do the prep work, it didn't actually matter. They didn't mind. No one was singled out saying you haven't done it. So if you don't have time to do it, it's fine. You'll get more out of it if you can. I didn't always do all the prep. And then, like I said, if you've got the ability to afterwards have time to reflect, you'll get more out of it again. Your ALS groups, they advise that you also meet in like 3-hour windows. I think we kind of met once a month, maybe slightly more regularly when the posted deadline came up. We didn't always fill that 3 hours, to be honest. You get to know them, but initially you are kind of just in a Zoom room with strangers, so talking for 3 hours is quite a long time. So sometimes we finish a bit earlier. Sometimes not everyone could make the ALS meetings, so the rest of us all met up. In terms of the rest of my work, I'm a little bit more flexible in that I kind of manage my own workload. I like assist with the lab team, but I don't have set lab work that needs to be done. So my manager had the attitude of just manage your own work around it. And if I was then struggling with other aspects of my job, I could then go to them and say, I can't fit everything in. But mine was a bit more, I just manage my own time.
So as somebody who's mainly web lab based, and again I was doing secondment as well. So again, because they of course they give you the dates in advance, so you can just plan, for example, 3 hours in the morning. You plan, okay, you're not going to do your lab work until after, and you just plan your schedule around it. In terms of like the ALS group, we met for an hour, and we were very like to the point. We'd have so I'd make like lab meeting minutes for people who didn't attend, and then we would have discussion points. So we basically kind of discuss each module, but then also our experiences in these, like for example, in cultural context, what their experiences were. They have bad experiences, good experiences, and yeah. So, but you know, your manager should be and definitely would be kind of open to blocking that time out. I'm sure Roger will fight your corner.
And like all these minutes, did they happen during the life?
Yeah.
Or was it?
It's always during like,
Yeah.
I struggle. I'll see it in my calendar, but
Yeah.
I cannot do it. And with ALS, we did 2 1-hour meetings on that. So it does take up quite a bit of time. I did have to go to my manager. I just worked my lab work around that kind of. I would have to miss a meeting or 2, then I'll be allowed to do today. It's something you have to kind of do.
I think from technician commitment point of view, I mean, this is really new. This was the second cohort, of course, just finished. So let's give some time for recognition for sure, I think, right? But I think it's really crucial that you talk to your manager. But I would really suggest, I believe that's what you did. That's what I would do if I would go for a, such a proposal to my manager, because it takes some of your time, clearly quite a commitment. It would be really important, I think, to tell them why you want to do this and how it's going to help to you, to your team, and to the institute. So I think this is, of course, very personal, but of course, this will add to your group's confidence even, right? You can bring your colleagues in, you learn, you share, you will be valuable to your team, you will be valuable to your institute. So I think it's really important to clearly mention why you want to do this. And then I think there is now enough information. We have also recorded from previous year on Fred pages. I think that's a really nice opportunity to actually work on your influencing and motivating, maybe negotiating skills with your manager as well, right? So, and I'm sure if you need any help, any of us could help. We had last year 15 cyber techs actually joined. This is really a small group of that big group, and hopefully this year it will be more. So maybe at the end we can form this small network, right? Because I know Talented Women's Impact Program and other leadership program at the institute, a bit more, actually, I think a bit more for managers. They are meeting, so why not? We can't form that network in a long term, I think, and help each other.
I think just building on what you said, in terms of, I was similar. You see it on your calendar, and you're like, I could really do without this week, actually. But thinking back, every work week is busy. I can't remember what work I was doing that week that was so important, but I'm going to remember that 3-hour module that I did and those skills that I can carry forward. So when you've got loads of the work going on and you are really busy, it did feel a little bit, an inconvenience is the wrong word, but if I could do it tomorrow instead of today, that would be useful. But actually, this is going to be more longer term and useful to you than the work that you've got on otherwise.
I think I have a few highlights. There was some ladies that were brought in to speak to us that were phenomenal. Like, they've done amazing things. And when I listened to these women, kind of felt like I can do this too. Like, what's holding me back? So I can say the first was the lady who went to space. Is that Helen? One thing that Helen actually opened my mind up to was sometimes we define our role. We put ourselves in a box. I'm an ARA, and this is the progression that I need to make in my career. But what Helen said was, after she went to space, she came back and then she was like, I've gone to space now. What do I do now? Do I still go back and be a technician? And then she actually re-looked at her career and started to do talks and trainings at schools and all that. And she realized it's something that she really enjoyed and she was really good at it. So she changed up her career, and I think she even set up something of her own that she started to speak to children, girls, and to help them along their careers. So what she also said to us was, don't put yourself in a box. Go out there and look at roles you never would have looked at before and look at what they need. And if you can tick at least half of those, you can probably apply for that job. It doesn't have to always be in the lab, if you're wet lab. It doesn't always have to be what you think you can do. There's skills that you get along the way in the roles that we have in science that you can actually use elsewhere. So that was interesting for me, because I would never look at a different job description and say I can do that, because I've put myself in a box and I work here and that's what I do. So I really like that. And the other highlight I think I got was when they talked about the imposter phenomenon. They said that you know, a lot of people talk about it. We all know it's a problem, but they gave us steps to take, to see, so that you can look back and see what you've done and actually give yourself the credit that you deserve. Things like a smile diary. Okay, smile diary is I do something in the lab and someone sends an email and says, thanks, Sharon, this was amazing. Guys, Sharon did an amazing job. Print it out and put it in a smile diary. You know, because we all have days when we feel like, I cannot do this, I'm not made for this. You go back to that smile diary, you look at it, and it kind of just gives you that boost, so you know that you are doing a good job and you do deserve the post that you hold, and you can even do better than what you're doing. And of course, the celebration event was really good. More phenomenal ladies came forward and spoke to us. They answered some of the questions we had, and we got to network with others. So it was really great.
Amazing, thank you. You share?
Yeah, so again, very, very similar. I think the highlight was definitely meeting people, hearing different experiences, hearing different, differences between industry and academia and institutes, and seeing people's experiences. And yeah, it kind of actually highlights that Sign is a great place to work. Someone's did you find that? Yeah, some of the stories. And then again, echoing what was already said, so Helen, I think, was a highlight, and I think she mentioned about imposter syndrome, and to kind of see somebody speak about it so openly as someone to even have it, the first British female astronaut, to also suffer from imposter syndrome was interesting to see, and how she kind of came over, and then also sometimes to kind of reflect on your role and what you do. It's sometimes good to speak to other people about it. So I think one thing that I started to do is getting involved in the public engagement. Spending just half an hour to speak to young children, kids, about the work that we do. And I feel like that kind of sometimes we do a sense of fulfillment because again, like we're in a box and we work in a box as well. You know, we don't have that much contact with the outside world, and it kind of really puts into perspective what we do. And yeah, the networking, you know, I think that was good from the we went to Birmingham and loads and loads of people, like what, 100, 300? 350 people in the room. So you can imagine. There was also like a little kid as well. He was, yeah, he was so quiet.
Yeah, I would say the same. The celebration event isn't compulsory, but if you can go, I would definitely advise. I came away feeling a lot more inspired after meeting everyone than I thought I would do. So yeah, it was really good to meet everyone. So that was my highlight.
I think one feedback I would give them is if they had like an in-person kind of introductory event, because it really helps build rapport with, you know, people in cohort, best group, rather than meeting everyone online. Because yeah, when you meet them in person, it's just so much different. Yeah.
Sorry, can I ask, how did you finance your travel to Birmingham? Was that gone from your pocket or from team budget?
It was
Mine was team budget.
yeah. They booked I just like check my email if I hotel was booked.
Oh,
But people had nicer hotels.
Yeah, I was a very nice.
Were you? Yeah. I heard.
my experience is different. I didn't get any communication, but I also didn't look for it. I was
Yeah,
quite
I asked.
late in terms of booking.
And you paid this from your pocket, you know.
I did, yes. And
All
then I was planning on asking about it retrospectively and then to forget about it, but I also booked the train when the day.
But anything else?
That was it.
Yeah, just to give you an idea specifically, I didn't want to put you on spot here, but as technicians or technical staff, you have that right actually to go to meetings, conferences, and they should be actually covered from your team budgets. So everyone, like academics, we have that opportunity. I think it's very important how you talk about this to your manager again, to your team. And we have also technician commitment grant. Let's talk about this. I think you can still reimburse that money. So because this is work and you are not supposed to take time off for this. This is related to your personal development, which will affect your work as well. So please keep that in mind and communicate. I'm sure, I can't imagine there will be issues, but please communicate similar things to your managers. And in future, actually, we want to bring Sanger Techs to other bigger technician summits, things like that, which we haven't been very active in the last 4 years, but that's the plan to work on this. And all of this should be going from your team budgets. If there are problems, technician grant.
There were definitely women in my cohort that were experienced managers, and I kind of was very impressed by them and looked at them as like, right, that's where I want to go and that's how I want to come across. They are quite confident and seem like got a lot of experience behind them. But I didn't actually speak to them afterwards about what their experience had been. So I don't know how they found the Herschel program, but I just know that women with a lot of managerial experience were on the program.
So yeah, in my ALS group, most of the women were already in leadership positions. Some of them, one of them was, I think, something head of administration. So she looks at all the applications, and like seeing her, she was like a boss woman. Like she was telling people like, so she was just kind of like showing how she was sharing that, you know, people sometimes, especially in academia, try to find loopholes and like cheat the system almost. So like, you know, would look at CVs in a very biased way, and she would be that person in charge and say like, yeah, no, sorry. She would say to like a PI that, sorry, you can't be involved in this hiring process, even though he's hiring himself, obviously he's hiring himself. So there were like loads of like stories that you could see how kind of like people's reactions and people's like take home messages, and you can really get some inspiration. There was another one who was head of a department, I think, in Newcastle University, again, leading a team of people. So she doesn't really have an academic background, as I mentioned, a PhD, but then she is, you know, leading a team with PhD students and technical staff. And then, you know, she then highlights kind of the challenges and the difficulties working with academics and technical staff. And it also kind of, again, from the woman who was in Caroline, who was working in the administration, she kind of highlighted that there was no career. I think the technical staff in this university didn't sit under, they sat under administration, which didn't really make sense to me because they're technical staff. And then she kind of like shared how she's working on getting that change completely. And yeah, you hear lots of stories from people who are already in managerial positions.
I think so. I had like a few years of management before I did this. Some of what was covered in this course I'd already heard elsewhere from other courses I've been on, but there was definitely some new stuff in there as well. That's why I highlighted in my presentation, like my 3 big take-home messages were actually separate to the content of the course. So I feel like even if you are an experienced manager and you've done training courses and leadership courses before, there is still stuff that you can gain from this.
Actually, there was one that had so much experience that she didn't find this very useful. Like, I won't be honest, like she didn't find it. Again, it's almost like she was being a bit cynical about it. And again, so then what I did, learning from influencing and negotiating, was I was like, okay, you have all this experience, share it. So then I like ask her questions, and then she, you know, tell me stories, and I'd say to her, for example, issues that I would have in my career development. She was tell me things on how to kind of go about it. And then actually towards the end, she turned around and said that I've really enjoyed these ALS meetings. I remember the first ALS meeting was like just complete. So again, like different experiences. So yeah, but I think there's always something that you can take from.
First of all, what is an ALS, by the way? What was it?
Action lesson.
Yeah.
Action
Learning
set, perfect. And second, I don't have a direct experience, or I don't have an example for this, but what I know, someone from last year's cohort from Sanger told me, I already did Talented Women's Impact Program, and I think I didn't need to do that. So that's why we put this here. If you did management or in action, or I think TWIP, then please consider possibly not to go into that. But I guess all depends on when you did that courses, right? Because I did TWIP, and then that was really useful for me when I started because it was perfect time. But then I did management in action 2 years later, which I knew majority of the things, like you said. But then again, it was a reminder, because you go to the courses as we all do, you know, you learn and then mostly you leave it there, right? I mean, it's very difficult to go back. There's never time. But I guess if you feel you need that kind of training, why not? And I think, yeah, the name is leadership, but these are all very basic skills. I really believe everyone should go to that similar kind of courses from the very beginning. Actually, you don't need to wait to have experience and become a manager actually to follow a leadership. And I think everyone can be a leader. You don't need to be a leader even at work by your position. You can be someone who everyone is respecting, right? As a leader, you can be in your private life leader. So yeah, open mind. I don't know, one of you mentioned have an open mind is really the key, I think, and what you want to get out of it. I think be honest with yourself. I haven't followed this because I did other things, but I know different trainings will be coming actually from, again, technician commitment. I think in addition to this, different leadership, different levels. Keep an eye, please.
That's useful. I applied for the Talented Women in Impact course when I was an ARA, but I think unless you are specifically in a managerial role at that time, then it's harder to get onto that course. So then, yeah, that's something that you have been doing. Yeah.
I think, like I mentioned, be open-minded, and what you put in is what you're going to get out. And they do kind of like elaborate on this point and emphasize this point a lot. Yeah, so if you want to get, so one interesting thing was, I don't know if you realize like this scheduling, it always, for some reason, I was always half an hour early. So I think it always gave me 9 o'clock, but then actually it starting at 9:30. So then I would use that time to kind of go through the material and go through, just so that when I'm going in, I'd already have questions and I'd already have certain points that I want to kind of mention. So yeah, what you kind of put in is probably what you.
Yeah, that didn't seem to be a thing in my calendar, but that's maybe useful. I'd say, yeah, if you're already setting aside 3 hours in your calendar, maybe set aside, 3.5. For me, I think I'd find it most useful if that half an hour was after the course. Then you can actually think, right, how am I then going to use this going forward? Whereas often I was like, right, the course is done, run off to the next thing, and then you then need to find time in your calendar to go back and think about it. Whereas if you just tap on half an hour already booked out in your calendar, no one in your team is going to question you if you say, I've got Herschel this afternoon, it's 3 hours. No one's going to know whether it's 3.5 or 3. So thank you for
That is the question.
If you could give people one piece of advice to get the most out of the program, what would it be?
Yeah, I don't know if I can add to what you said, but I think it's all in the mind. Don't go in with your own ideas and expectations. Just like what the lady said, keep an open mind and take what you will from it. You will gain something. Because there was some really negative people in the cohorts and in the teams that would say, there's technical problems. I mean, there's always going to be technical problems in any online meeting, and these were big online meetings with over 40 people. So I think that you have to go with an open mind and a positive attitude. There'll be something for you. Yeah.
Perfect. It's been really, really amazing to hear about your experiences. So thank you so much for coming along and sharing with us. And thank you to everyone in the room and on Zoom for coming and listening and asking some really great questions. We are going to wrap up here because I know a lot of people have meetings to go to. For those here in person, we have lunch in the hall and outside, so please do stick around and enjoy that and do a bit of networking. Feel free to come and ask questions. And if you think of something at a later date, don't worry about dropping an email. We're also going to set up a front page with some more information, so keep an eye out for that. And this recording will be shared at a later date. So, unless you have anything to add, thank you very much.
Yeah, a great round of applause for a fantastic course.